of came up in our club recently was, do you buy a brand new car or do you buy second hand? Now, I guess my whole life I've bought second hand. I've never bought a brand new car, and I guess most car guys are the same, you know, because the reality is you're going to buy a car and you're not going to be satisfied with its stock for any period of time. So the reality is you are going to modify the car, especially if you're a car guy. What I've noticed recently when we were having a chat with the boys is that most of us are the same. However, lately, you know, and I'm getting a bit up there in the years now. Lately, I've noticed a trend that a few of us are starting to buy new cars, and obviously I'm one of them. I've gone ahead and bought a new car. Now, the question is it worth it? Is it worth buying a new car? And what's the benefits, pros and cons to buying a new car versus a second-hand car, or you know, modifying a second-hand car, or buying a brand new car, and then either making a decision whether or not you are going to modify that brand new car and completely void your warranty, or leave it stock for the period of the warranty. You know, if you buy a performance car or any sort of car that has decent specs, you're not going to get a warranty longer than 2 years anyway, so, you know, maybe you can wait the 2 years. But in my particular case, I actually bought this car brand new with zero intention of modifying it. I'll tell you a little story about why I chose to buy a brand new car firstly, and how I led up to that decision, and then why inevitably I decided to throw all that warranty shit in the rubbish and go ahead with modifying the shit out of a brand new car and voiding all of that warranty stuff. So why did I buy a brand new car? So I've always been a car guy. I've been a car guy since I was young. You know, before I could drive, I was drawing cars, and I liked to, you know, take pictures of cars and go to car shows and races. And my old man used to take me to the MotoGP when I was a kid. And you know, we've always had a bit of a passion for cars. So, sorry, some idiot was trying to reverse into me. Fucking hell! Get a license, brother. So why did I buy a brand new car? So I've always driven cars that are second hand, and I've had modified cars in the past, and so on and so forth. But I went through a phase where money was really tight. I couldn't afford to modify a car, and in my wisdom, I decided to buy something practical. So the practical car that I had decided to buy in my wisdom was still turbocharged, but unfortunately it was a turbo diesel, and it was one of those tiny little shitbox European turbo diesels. It was a 2006 Citroen C4. I picked it up for about $6,000. It was in pretty good nick, had about 70,000 Ks on it, and you know, it went really well. It was fucking economical. I'll tell you what, that car used to get on a tank, I think it was a 50-litre tank in it, would get 1,500 kilometres on a tank of juice. Unfucking believable. It's something like 25 to 1, 25 kilometres to the litre. So it was really economical. That's in the old money, that's 4 litres per 100 Ks, or 4 litres per 100 Ks. So I drove that car for 6 years. Now, previous to that, because I was into modified cars, I had a modified car budget. So in my savings, or in the money that I was saving, I always put aside 20 or so odd % of my income towards modifying cars, or fucking with cars, or playing around with them, and that sort of thing. So when I bought the Citroen, that car, because it was so economical and cheap to buy in the beginning, I didn't spend any money. I decided that after 12 months of still putting aside that 20% of my income and still driving the Citroen, the money started to build up, and I decided I was going to make a decision. I thought, well, look, I could either take that money and go ahead and throw it into going on a holiday or something like that, or I could just keep saving it. And I thought, I'll save it up and I'll buy a house. I'll buy myself a house. I should settle down. I'm getting older anyway. So I saved the money. Then it turns out I got a pretty good job, and I started to save some money, and I started to save some real money. So I actually got to the point where I was saving 20% of my income for the modified cars still. I had been doing that for 12 months. And I was also able to put aside money for a deposit on a house. And I continued to do that. So I did that for 6 years. I think I kept that Citroen. And in the time, I actually, after 3 or 4 years, I had enough money to put a down payment on a house, and I bought a property and blah, 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 did the whole settle down thing and whatever. But I still had that shitty Citroen. And then probably about 5 years into owning the Citroen, the turbo, because it didn't have a blow-off valve or anything, it was a cheap car, 1.6 litre diesel. Firstly, I had a bunch of mechanical problems with the particulate filter, which is some stupid European thing that is not regulated in Australia anyway. So the particulate filter got blocked, and I never replaced it. I just got lazy. Then I had a small leak in my exhaust manifold prior to the turbo, and I left it. So this was my big mistake. Actually, it was a big mistake, and it worked out for the best in the end. So the big mistake was I didn't fix it straight away. I could have fixed it with a bit of liquid metal, or I could have taken it off and welded the thing together. Fixed it up pretty easily, but I didn't. I left it. I let it go 6 months, 12 months. I passed Rego, but they told me I needed to fix it. The next year came around, and at this point the car was blowing quite a lot of smoke out of the hood, because that fucking turbo leak was under the hood. And then what happened is I went to pass Rego, and they said, mate, we can't pass you because of the smoke that's coming out of the hood of your car. And look, when I say there was smoke coming out of the hood of the car, I mean there was fucking smoke coming out of the hood of the car. That thing would billow smoke. Wherever I would drive, I had people pulling up next to me telling me my car was overheating and shit, what's going on. And it used to drive me fucking mental. I'd say to them all the time, I know there's smoke coming out of the bloody Citroen. It's a piece of shit car. It's got by that time it had 300,000 Ks on it, and it's still going. It was just this fucking exhaust leak, which was a goddamn problem. But anyway, so I got to the point where I thought, fuck this car, I'm sick of it. I went to go and get it fixed, and they quoted me something like $4,000 to get it fixed. And I thought, that's crazy, $4,000. But they said, look, these cars, their motors are so tight and blocked up, we basically got to pull the whole thing out and replace the turbo, we've got to replace the pipe, we've got to replace the manifold, we've got to replace everything. Because at that point I'd let it go so bad that it had completely ruined itself. So at that point I didn't know what to do, and I thought, oh well, fuck it, I'll buy a new car. So I started looking on the aftermarket, and I was shopping around, and the next thing you know, I stumbled across an ad on TV for the WRX, and I thought, oh well, I've never had a Subaru WRX before, I'll look into it. So as a matter of fact, I always had an infatuation with the Subaru Liberty B4 twin turbo, and that's what I was looking for. I was actually looking for online on carsales.com. I was looking for a Subaru Liberty B4, and then that Subaru WRX ad popped up, the new Rexy. So look, I thought, you know what, I can buy the B4, but the problem with the B4 is they all have about 140,000 Ks on it, and you also know that a Subaru Liberty B4 has been flogged in its lifetime. So, EJ255 I think they had in the time, with 140,000 minimum Ks on it. Some of them went up to 250. that car would have been in a state. I would have had to rebuild the motor from the start. It would have been a pain in the ass, and I needed a daily driver. I needed a commuter car that I could get registered within a month in order to be able to drive to work. Sorry, I think I had 2 months or a month and a half. Anyway, so that I saw the ad for the WRX and I thought, fuck it, I'll book a test drive. We'll see what it's like. You know, it wasn't that expensive. It was something like 40k or so, 45k. So I went to the dealer and I had a chat to them. They could do finance for 4% interest or something ridiculous. They could get the car to me in a couple of weeks with all the spec that I wanted. And I took that WRX out for a test drive, a standard WRX, and it was nice. You know, that twin scroll turbo was great. It was a fast car. It handled really nice. You know, for a new car, you know, obviously it was an excellent piece of kit. So when I test drove it, I thought, you know what, that's nice. Let me drive the STI because it's there anyway. The dealer kind of talked me into it, and I thought, fuck it, I'll give it a go. And then, I mean, the dealer wasn't too pushy. They just said, look, you know, the STI's here, you've driven the Rexy, why don't you just take the STI out for a spin around the block? And, you know, and obviously they were doing the sale, and they pretty much knew that if I'm a car guy and I drive the STI, I'm going to love it. And they were fucking right. I tell you what, I jumped in that car and I drove it, and it was a dream. Actually, the biggest thing I noticed, firstly, the handling was so much better. But the biggest thing I noticed was the gear, the shifter. So the mechanical linkage and the short throws in the STI was so much better than that broom handle stuck in a box of fucking rocks that goddamn WRX had. That you know, I was absolutely convinced that was the way to go. So I still wasn't able to afford it per se. So I spoke to the dealer and said, look, you know, it's a nice car, it's great, it's expensive. You know, you're talking 55k for the base model or something like that, 53k or something. So it's 10 grand up on the WRX. Can't afford it, and they said, well, let's see what we can do. So they did a finance package for me, and it worked out pretty good. So I sat on it for a week. Dealer came back to me and said, if you order now, we can get it in by early next month. And my rego was due early next month. So I told them, on the proviso, you can get the car ready by before my rego was due on the shitron. And on the proviso, you take the shitron off my hands, which I tell you what would have been a tall fucking order because that car was a bomb by that time. So take the shitron off my hands and give me something for it. So I did want them to pay for my rego and insurance, my comprehensive insurance and my extended warranty. I wanted them to pay for that with the collateral from the shitron. And that was the conditions, and then I wanted interest of 4%, 4.2 or something like that. It was less than 5 anyway, on the finance. And you know, a day or two of toing and froing, a little bit of negotiation on the percentages. We got down to the figures that I was after. So I went in and I said, okay, well, let's pull the trigger. Unfortunately, I optioned the shit out of it and ended up spending a lot more money than I thought, but it was still within my budget, and the finance package was a great deal. I was happy with everything. I pulled the trigger and they ordered the car. Now, unfortunately, the car needed to be built because of the options. I basically fully optioned the car. On that as well, I think, you know, if you buy a new car, just option the shit out of it, because the reality is you're spending a fuckload of money. You're going to regret not optioning the shit out of it. And as a matter of fact, I did not get the short throw shifter, the STI short throw. The standard STI mechanical linkage was fucking great. I mean, that's the one I tested, but I didn't order the STI short throw. I didn't see the necessity. And there were one or two minor little options I didn't get, you know, like a boot liner or whatever. My mistake was not getting that short throw shifter, because after owning the car for a couple of weeks, I had to take it back in and get that short throw shifter because I just wanted it at that point. All I wanted to do was improve the car. And this is the point of difference, is if I was any other guy, I probably would have left it stock had it not been for that bloody short throw shifter. I took it in, I got the short throw, the STI short throw shifter put in, and the gear shifts were so much cleaner and crisper, so much shorter, lighter. It was a much better feel. And I realised, you know, make a small change to the car, even if it's brand new, and the benefits are huge. The price wasn't that high. We are talking about JDM here, so everything is fairly reasonable. So what inevitably happened, instead of me leaving it stock, which I had originally planned on doing, and preserving my warranty, I went in and got a catback exhaust. Now, a catback exhaust does not void your warranty. It only voids your warranty for the portion of the exhaust that you remove. So I got a catback exhaust. That sounded awesome, you know, and I thought, oh, that's great. Now I want to do something else. I changed the wheels, doesn't void your warranty. Great, I had that done. But at that point, the bug had bit me big time, you know. And remember, I had a 6-year hiatus, and I didn't modify cars in that entire 6-year period. So that itch to go ahead and make it better and better and better and better had left me. But, you know, short throw shifter, wheels, the catback exhaust, and I was hooked again. And the next thing you know, I had the exhaust done, the turbo back, the cold air intake, a E85 conversion, new turbo, and eventually I completely rebuilt the block, forged pistons, closed deck, 2.6 stroke of crank, you know, and trust me, you don't want to know how much money I spent on the car from that point onwards. But let's just say I could have bought another WRX. If I didn't throw all that money into the STI. But what I will say is, now I have an STI that is brand new. The bodywork is only the bodywork is still protected under warranty. Oh, sorry, and the interior is still protected under warranty, which is good. I've got some sort of warranty coverage. But the mechanicals, I've basically written that off. However, my engineer, MSR, Michael South, who's absolutely wonderful. If you ever need any work done on your Rexy, go to Michael. You can't beat the guy. He is, you know, in my opinion, the #1 Subaru guy in the country. So he did all the work, and Michael guarantees his work. So even though I've forfeited the factory warranty, I am getting a better mechanic working on my car than any of the mechanics that work at Subaru. And on top of that, the work that Michael does is guaranteed, which means that if there are any problems with the work that he's done, he'll look after it for me. So I've effectively got, in my opinion, better protection than what a warranty could provide anyway, because I've got better mechanics working on it, and I don't need to pay for any faults or mistakes or errors that Michael makes, because he guarantees his work. So you know, Michael's a fantastic guy, and I reckon in the long run, even though I spend a piss load more money than what I ever hoped to spend on a new car, I reckon I made the right decision. Now, I guess the question is, should I have bought a second-hand car and done the same thing? Well, I reckon if I bought a second-hand car, the problem is you don't know what sort of a life that car's lived. So there is a fairly good chance that the drivetrain might be damaged, the gearbox might be rooted, the clutch might be stuffed. I know everything about this car. I know its entire life. I know everything that it's done, and I know exactly what's happened prior to my ownership, because it was me. I'm the owner. So for peace of mind, and also having the ability to be able to drive a car that is heavily modified and now exactly what I wanted from a car, I reckon I made the right decision. In hindsight, should I have bought a second-hand car? Probably, because I would have modified the shit out of it anyway, and I probably would have had a similar result. The only thing is, I do require the car as a daily driver, and I do need reliability. So a new car does make sense in those terms. I also am rather planning on keeping this car for a very long period of time. and at the end of the life of this car, I do intend on tracking it. So when the car is finished as a road car, I will turn it into a track car, and then I've got myself a race car that I know the history of, and I've already built the right parts over time, over the years, up to the point where it does become a race car. So I've already got the setup done. I don't need to modify things, and I don't need to worry about track reliability either. So I reckon I made the right choice, and I'm pretty happy with my decision. And I can tell you for a fact that I'm 100% happy with the car. I mean, it's an absolute dream. There's not a minute of any day that I don't like being in this car. This car is an absolute dream. I'm happy with the power. I can blow the doors off pretty much anybody I come across, and it's comfortable. It's, you know, the interiors on these new Subarus are pretty slick. So I couldn't be happier. I really couldn't be happier. Would have been nicer if it was cheaper to get to this point, but you know, shit happens. Anyway, that's it for today. I hope you enjoyed the video, and I'll look forward to catching up with you in the near future. Thanks a lot.